So want me to sit here? So
Yeah, sit here and then I just need to start recording, so I forgot to do
Okay.
that, so. Go ahead.
All right.
Yeah.
Again, my name is Brian Conley. I'm the Boundaries and Planning Director for Salt Lake City School District. We've had a lot of it's been an eventful year. Over the course of about the last year, school board has really dug into, and with the work of district leadership, looked at enrollment, what enrollment trends have looked like, what we've done as a district. Just for a little background for those of you new to or fairly new to Salt Lake City, over the last 20 years, we as a district have not closed any of our schools. It's been a 20-year period since we have. Some would argue we went a little bit too long without doing so, because our enrollment over that time at the elementary level dropped by about 4,000 students over a 20-year period for various reasons. People think that it's just been because of charter schools, things like that. That certainly had an impact, but even charter school numbers have been down about 9 or 10% over the last handful of years as well. And you might ask yourself, well, if they're going down and you're going down, what's going on? And if you haven't had a chance to just go out and try to shop for a house, either rent or buy, you probably understand why student enrollment is going down in the city. Our boundaries as a district are the city limits, are the city boundaries. So we don't have a chunk to our north or to our east that are more in the suburbs of where our homes are. All of our homes are Salt Lake City itself. So as prices have really gone up, it's gotten harder and harder. Families with 3 or 4 children have moved out, even in family housing areas, and families with 1 or 2 children move in where 3 or 4 used to live before, or sometimes no children. Our fastest growing segment within Salt Lake City has been age 45 and older over the last decade anyway, has been that age group. And there aren't a lot of 50, 60-year-olds that are parents of 5-year-olds. So there are a few, but not too many. So our numbers have kept going down. We have, our school board did make the decision to close 4 of our 27 elementary schools starting in the fall. Those 4, at the time that we set up some meetings and wanted to talk to you all, we didn't know where those 4 were going to be. That was all underway. We were doing a lot of talking in different areas about where we needed to consolidate. And but those 4 have been in more the central part of the city, and one on the west side, and the other 3 are more centrally located. Nothing in this immediate area. Most of your kids go to school at either Indian Hills right now or at Beacon Heights, and a few to Bonneville and a few to a couple other programs. We don't anticipate, we know that we're not closing Indian Hills. In fact, Indian Hills is going to pick up what's called a magnet gifted and talented program that's been at one of the other schools that is closing. So even though you might be up at Indian Hills right now and say, boy, there aren't too many students up here right now, there's going to be more next year because magnet program is moving there. Bonneville, if your kids are there, there's already a good number of students over there, over 400. And Beacon Heights, the numbers there are right around 400 as well. So there will still be the bus running. I know you all are in the middle of a ton of change as a whole unit with these new residences being built. Some still here on the west side, some in the East Village. Everything's going to get moved around. The next 2 or 3 years, you all are going to see a ton of change too. So I'm here to answer any questions you have. Again, I don't think we have as many unknowns as we did 4 or 5 months ago, because we're working on the schools with what's happening. But if you have any questions or want to know more about what's happening, I'm here to answer any. And I'll open it up.
I guess just a question from a general standpoint, is when you're closing variable schools, what happens to the teachers that were teaching in those schools?
Yeah, the great question. Thank you. What happens to the teachers and staff and all that? We have 27 elementaries right now with about 9,500 students. Next year, we're going to have 23 elementaries with about the same number of students. We're losing a couple hundred, which means our resources follow wherever those students are going. So, for example, one of our schools, Wasatch Elementary, not too far from here. It's right on South Temple. Wasatch Elementary's boundaries are changing, getting bigger. So instead of having about 320 students, they're going to have right around 400 students. With those extra students will mean 4 or 5 more teachers, a little bit more help with counselor / social work and paraprofessional help. So the school board made a commitment when it was decided to close schools that every contract employee and hourly employee that received a satisfactory evaluation, was doing a good job in our district, they would be guaranteed an offer of a placement somewhere in the district in a comparable type. So they might be, it might be a 3rd grade teacher at one of the schools closing, and the offer might be, hey, we still want you to be a teacher. You could be a 5th grade teacher over here. It might not be exactly the same, but administrators, teachers, counselors, office workers, everybody is, because we still have about the same number of students. We're just, by consolidating, we had some schools that were getting so small. As you can imagine, having too big a school can be a problem. We have found out over the last 10 years, having too small of a school is a problem too. When you get 200, 180, 200 students at a school, you might have a 2nd grade class, but that's the only group of 7th graders in the school, 2nd graders. And so not only are they only class together for 2nd grade, they're the only class together for 3rd grade and 4th grade and 5th grade. And if that class grows to be 27, 28, 29, 30 kids, we don't have another place to put them. Sometimes a small school causes headaches, just like a school that gets too big. So we're looking to try to find schools right around the 400 to 500, right in there, about that many students. We do have a few schools that are going to be a little bit over that, a few that are going to be a little under, but most of our schools next year will be right around that 425, 450 student range. But thanks for that question. Yes.
What are some of your elementary schools that have preschools in them?
Oh, great question about preschools. The 5-year district strategic plan is to try to, we're not here yet. I mean, it's a new plan for the next 5 years, is to try to increase the number preschool, get more in more locations. Right now, I don't have my sheet in front of me. I believe we have a total of 14. It's right around 14 preschools in our district, and so about half of our schools right now have preschool. Our goal is, again, to increase that. And I'd be happy to also share. We don't know exactly where they're going to be 100% for next year, just because with the schools that are closing, trying to move those preschools to other places. But I do know that we're going to have that list soon, and I could send to both. I could send to you two, both of you. I get to see it. Wendy, I could say, here are the schools we know that have preschools coming up. I mean, I know some of them, like Parkview and Riley and Whittier, and we have some schools. But right here in this area, the only ones that I can think of, I believe Dilworth has one. Thing is, most of the schools in this area, their attendance is still pretty high, especially with us adding the gifted and talented program up at Indian Hills for this next year. So the number of schools that have a classroom we could put a preschool in, we don't have as many spaces here as we do at some other places, but I'll send that list to her of where they are And you could share that list with, here are the schools with preschools. We unfortunately don't provide, there is busing, of course, for this area to both Beacon Heights and to Indian Hills, depending on whether you live East Village, West Village. But if you do something, if you want to do preschool besides that, like taking them to Liberty. Liberty's a school that's close by with a preschool, but we don't have busing today. You'd have to get them there yourself, but I'd be happy to share that list. Thank you. We love the idea of getting more preschools. We think that can really be and that's really where a lot of just getting students really school ready can pay big dividends.
All right, let me just see, make sure there's nothing on. There's not. Okay, great. Well, thank you, Brian.
Thank you, everyone.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you.
Thanks. And if you have, any questions, sharing with Wendy, with Valerie, anything that you have, I'd be happy to try to be of any service. So thanks again, and I appreciate you inviting me.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. Awesome. Well, with that, we'll move on to the presentation that Wendy has prepared. So you can now see Wendy on screen and take it away, Wendy.
All right. Well, just fair warning, I'm usually a wanderer during presentations, so I don't know how this is going to go with sitting, but it is great to be here tonight. Thank you all for coming. I'm glad those who joined online are here as well. So we got some questions that were submitted online, and this presentation tonight is just going to kind of go through those questions and then add some extra information that you might want to know about Sunnyside Apartments. So we're going to start off. Oh. If it's like screen sharing, how do I do a video?
Is it embedded in the? So did you share just the window, or did you share the? Yeah, just pull it up, and I will unshare and I'll pull it up once you get there.
How do I get to it though?
So click stop share.
Okay, sorry.
You're okay.
I'm not technologically.
Yeah, no worries. And then pull up your browser.
So once a week, we do flyovers of the new construction. And you're seeing every single screen that I have on my computer.
You're not sharing, actually. So
oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I need to share again.
Yep. Yeah, go back.
Sorry, I had to make this difficult tonight. This one right here. Is it there? Okay, so this is a flyover of the construction site that happened just a week ago. So you'll notice in it, can you see my, yeah. So this right here is the new Spruce Graduate Student Building. Oh my goodness.
It's on the webinar.
But it's not up here. Is it, did it go off?
The input would have changed, but.
I had such great plans. Oh, there it goes. Thank you.
I didn't do
Then we'll have to get back to the slideshow. So sorry. So this here, if you can see my cursor, is the new Spruce building. Just in the last week on this end right here, the roof is starting to go on and there's a 4th floor going on back here. So this is kind of fun. You can see it from a different view. than we're normally seeing it from our cars. So we'll just run through this really quick. It's the Spruce building. And then you can see as we come around, this right here is the new family building. They've already started pouring the footers. They have the foundations, the egg piers in all the way around here. There'll be a community center that they haven't started yet on the foundation, but it's going to be right here. You can kind of see it a little bit. And then this right here will be the daycare center. So it's starting to come together a little bit. It's kind of exciting. Do you have any questions on the construction while we're letting this go through?
So one spruce, one cottonwood for the ones that are currently being built.
Yes, 1 and 1. Yep. The new Cottonwood building will be roughly the same size as these two put together. So it's going to be one big building. Yeah. And there's our office. If you ever want to come see us, just put your mud shoes on and come on over. We'd love to have you. All right. Any other questions about construction? Okay, I'm gonna quick try to shift this back.
You just aren't sharing it right now. There we go. Is that it? You're just not sharing it on the Zoom.
Well, it's not on the Zoom. There?
Yep.
Yay.
Perfect.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so that was the flyover. Just wanted you to be able to see it. If you're ever interested in seeing it, if you're like a construction person, kind of like I am, feel free to stop by and I'd be happy to show it to you. Just in my office. The South Road down here between Spruce and our office is open. You've probably noticed that. It's great. It is going to close again in May. It'll be closed for 4 to 6 weeks, and then it should be open permanently. So just so you can prepare for that, early May, it's going to close again. The gardens, we had a question about the gardens and the fence that's gone up. That fence is there because we'll skip down a couple to the West Road. The fence is there because the West Road is going to be closed for, it's scheduled to be closed starting in July and will reopen in October. And during that time, they're going to be putting in utilities and the storm tech for the buildings that are next door. So in order to keep families and kids safe, the construction company put that fence in to keep us out of the construction area. I also like it there as well right now because there's a lot of truck traffic, as you know, going in and out of there, and would be best for kids to be able to keep them on the other side of the fence. There is going to be access on both ends. So there at the maintenance building, you'll be able to go in. There'll be a pathway into there to get to the garden plots. And then also, if you don't want to walk over there, then you can drive around and park at the church, and there'll be a little path coming up from the church parking lot into the garden area. So those will be the 2 access points that we'll have available. Landscaping at the bowl right down here was supposed to start Monday, but it rained and rained and rained. So now they're waiting for it to dry out a little bit. So as soon as it's at the point where they can start leveling out and planting sod, they're going to do so. They expect in 4 to 6 weeks, they will be able to open that up, that we can all use it, which will be wonderful. So they're going to give it some time to take root and to really get a solid foundation. And then they'll open the fences up to the point where the daycare center will start. And then it will be closed from there into the construction area. But once it's open, please feel free to use it, plan activities, whatever you want to do there in that space. The last part of the construction update is electrical shutdowns. And let me just share that this is something that we in the office 100% understand, that it is uncomfortable and not fun to live through these electrical shutdowns. There have been a few more than we had expected on this phase, simply because the construction area has been a lot more complicated than we had anticipated it being. There are a lot more utility lines running through that piece of property than were on the maps that we had originally had. So it has required some shifting and moving and splicing and cutting and digging and everything else to be able to get everything to come together for the new buildings. So just so you're aware, there will be 5 more electrical shutdowns between now and fall of 2025. We don't have specific dates for those yet. They are yet to be determined. So the construction company is going to give us ample notice so we can let you all know that those are coming up. But we just want you to know that we understand the frustration that you have with those electrical shutdowns. And we have in the past, we've opened these buildings so people can come and hang out and be cool and warm or whatever time of year it is. But we're also going to explore some other options. We had a couple questions about food in fridges and freezers if they're 8-hour shutdowns. So that is something we're going to start exploring before the next shutdown. Is there anything that we can do to help with that, with your freezer foods and those kinds of things? I would advise that when we do put out the information that there's going to be a shutdown, maybe eat all as much food as you can, because there's no way we could provide freezer space for every resident here. So just to keep that in mind, we're trying to do what we can to mitigate that for you. So
and to that point, just with the planning, just they'll give us really good notice. So just know that you can always use, Wendy touched on this, but you can use this area for studying, for work, you won't have Wi-Fi in your own apartment, but there's Wi-Fi over here. You can use the study rooms that are in both Cottonwood and Spruce buildings, and then also the community center. So it's just about planning ahead, and it should hopefully be okay.
And if you ever have questions or anything about any of the construction that's happening, electric shutdowns, there shouldn't be any more water shutdowns, knock on wood. We believe we have that to the point where we're all set. But just in case something happens, don't rule them out. But if you ever have any questions on those, please feel free to call the office and ask. We're always happy to walk you through things or to answer any questions that you might have. All right, so I just kind of wanted to give you an update on some of the things that we have going right now that we're working on in the main office. We did have a couple of questions about additional motorcycle parking.
I think you're sharing the one.
Okay, you guys are now seeing how technologically.
So I would just stop share.
You don't even have a.
Share the one.
Thank you.
So, I see what's happening. You have this set up as a second desktop, and you're extending your display. I don't know how to Dell. I'm much less confident on, but.
Okay, so we're going to talk about motorcycle parking while Garrett is doing that. We did have a couple questions from residents in the 9 and 1000 court that there's not enough motorcycle parking over there. So we have worked with commuter services and designated 3 more spaces. Not actual spaces, but 3 more locations. One right outside the 1000 Court, one outside of 796 here that would have good access for 9 and 10, and then also one down below Spruce. So that's something that is in the works. Thank you. All right. We are very aware that the Cottonwood buildings are not full. We're at 43% right now, which honestly, we have been, since I started in August, we've been sitting at 37, 38%. So we are very excited to be at 43% right now. We're going up. We have decided that we are going to open Cottonwood 797 to graduate students in the fall. So we have designated the 2-bedroom, 2-bath and the 1-bedroom borrowed light units for graduate students. So as those applications come in, we are hoping we won't need to turn away any graduate students. We will have a space for all. So if you have friends who want to stay, please invite them to apply. Families as well. We want families as well. The artwork in the new buildings, I know we talked about this in December. I think our December was our fall forum, or November, and they are going to be installed on the 29th of April. So these 3 new buildings will have artwork that they'll be installed the 29th, the 30th, and May 1st. So those are coming. We had a question about EV charging stations. Had a couple questions about EV charging stations and the cost to charge here at Sunnyside. We have charge point stations, and those are the same as across campus. And when they installed them, they just used the same rates as on campus here at Sunnyside. So I've been talking with commuter services, and they have approved for us to have the same rate as HRE since we're a residential location. So any students who live here and have a Sunnyside apartment or a Sunnyside parking permit need to register with commuter services, and that $3 an hour charge that's on there will be taken off. So you can charge anywhere here at Sunnyside and also on campus. If you drive to campus and have a permit there, you can do the same without that $3 charge. If somebody is interested in that, you can go to the electric vehicle charging station website under commuter services, and they give you the instructions on how to sign up for that. If you have any questions, feel free to call the office. We can help you with that as well, or call commuter services directly and they can help you. Right. We had a question about parking. Where are the new graduate students and families going to park once the new buildings are open? I think there was a concern that there wasn't going to be any more than these 2 lots over here, but as you can see, there will be plenty of parking around those new Spruce and Cottonwood buildings. So we had a couple questions about Cottonwood rental rates and why we haven't lowered them to entice more families to live at Cottonwood. And we also had some questions about why the Cedar rates were being raised, but the Cottonwood rates were remaining the same. So I just wanted to kind of share how housing works at the University of Utah. All housing operations and systems are part of the university system. And so it's not just us, it's also HRE. And so all of HRE buildings and our buildings, when rental rates change, it's system-wide and not just for Sunnyside. So out of the rental revenues, the university uses that money for programming, for debt management, for maintenance, for staffing, and also demolition of buildings on campus. So all of HRE's buildings and the Cedar buildings were raised 7% starting in July. Only the Cottonwood and Spruce buildings were held the same, and that was because of the Graduate Student Task Force recommended that we keep those rates the same this year to kind of start matching up with the graduate student stipends as the graduate school is working on those as well. So I just kind of wanted to share why it is that there's kind of different rental rates going on right now, and that there's a whole university system that we have to work within in order to set those rates. Hopefully that's helpful. I'm going to turn some time over now to Valerie. She's going to talk about a few things, a few more questions, just to kind of give you a break from listening to me.
And now I have to remember what I'm going to talk about. So here we go. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you. All right. I'm Valerie Green. I'm the Associate Director for Res Life. There were some questions on solicitations and sales and kind of the policy. And one of the questions that came in was talking about a research opportunity that someone had for their toddler or child from the University of Utah, and they were told that we did not allow people to post those things here. Actually, if it's an IRB approved study that's affiliated with the University of Utah, if people send a copy to me and then give me enough copies, the resident assistants will actually post those. So however that one happened, I'm not sure, but we always want to collaborate with the university, especially with IRB approved studies, so that our residents can get $50 gift cards or $100 gift cards or whatever to participate in studies. So if there's questions about that, please send them to the main office. I'm going to refresh that information with our front desk as well, in case someone at the front desk told them, yeah, sorry, we don't do that. So that was one of the questions that came up. Another question is, what are the rules about solicitation? Will we be hammered with political ads this year? Can we opt out? Actually, we don't allow door-to-door solicitation by political parties. The only ones that can go door-to-door are resident council members when they're running for office. Anything else on your doors, whether it's a pizza guy, a real estate agent, or whatever, is not allowed. The only people who can post on doors are resident assistants who post things on behalf of Sunnyside Apartments. So hopefully, but as I understand it, political candidates can't go door to door. We're double checking because that used to be in this policy, and then we took it out the last time we wrote this policy. So we're hoping we don't get hammered. One of the things that we'll also do when it comes to the fall, like the block party and some of our large scale events, we'll work with the student government on campus with ASUU to have them set up voter registration sites at our large scale events, so that we don't have political candidates coming in trying to do that. We'll actually provide that so that people can register to vote. There was another question, what are we allowed to hang in our windows? Currently, the solicitation and sales policy does not put restrictions on hanging things in windows. Based on the past year and some of the political movements across campuses across the United States and other countries too, I'm sure. But there have been more restrictions placed on that in other parts of campus just because of some of the political situations as well as hate speech that people were posting in windows. The housing and residential education, which is the dorms on campus, has a policy that people cannot post things in windows. I mean, it's one thing you have your lamp there or whatever, but to put out an anti-LGBTQ or a support Palestine, support Israel, or whatever, that is prohibited at housing and residential education. The Office of General Counsel at the University of Utah has recommended that we align our policies with theirs. If you've been following the resident council meetings, we've been talking about that at resident council, and we haven't come to a final decision yet if we're going to change that policy or not. So let's see. Another question came in that said from some of the Cedar residents that there was a concern that we're providing better services to people that live in the Cottonwood and Spruce buildings. Well, it's true. We do. No, we don't. We have the best RAs though, right? No, sorry. One of the, I'm not sure what that question was based on, and I feel really sad to know there's a perception that somehow we're providing a higher level of service to one group rather than the other. From a resident life perspective, the number of students or apartments that we have per resident assistance is the same. The job description for resident assistance is the same overall in Cedar as well as in the Cottonwood and Spruce buildings. One of the things that I think might raise this question is that now, or might have caused this question, is that we do a lot of our programming here in the Cottonwood and Spruce community centers. The West Community Center is gone. The East Community Center is used all day long by the childcare there, so we cannot do any programming during the day. So I know for people in the East Village, it feels like, oh, why do you program everything in the West? The reason is because we simply don't have an indoor facility in the East Village that we can use for our programming during the weekdays. One of the things we have done and will continue to do is that both community club and large scale events will do some back and forth when the weather's good, when we can do things in the East Village to make sure that we're programming. We did the Easter egg hunt up there in April when the weather was good. So I think maybe that perception, whoever submitted this question, maybe because the community centers here, they're brand new, they're state of the art, they're easy to use. It's easier to program up here. It's harder for our East Village residents to come over here. We recognize that. We just simply don't have the facilities in the East Village to provide that same level of service when it comes to our programming outreach. So let's see. And then there was another question about if I want to submit anonymous tips about someone who's approved assistance animal is off leash or barking, or I'm angry with somebody, but I want to be anonymous. Can I report anonymously? Did we put the police thing on or not?
No.
Okay, that's fine. So there is, and we'll put this in the notes that we put online. So if people are worried about suspicious activities that may be police related, the police do have a tip line online that you can actually turn in an anonymous report. When it comes to resident life things, we have the apartment living policy or community living standards, sorry, we renamed it, that talks about who we are as a community and what the expectations for a community are. And that expectation is that if you have a beef with your neighbor, if somebody's dog is off leash, you as a community member can go and talk to that person about that. I know that's not easy to do, but that's the expectation that we have for our community here. That if you have a problem within the community, you're willing to address it with your neighbor. If someone sends an anonymous report, it's really hard to follow up to clarify information, to find out more information. If somebody says, oh, this dog was off leash at this time, and I'm like, well, what color was the dog? You know, how big was the dog? I can't get more information from an anonymous reporter. We never tell someone who reported them. So if that's the fear with the anonymous report, we never disclose who reports things. But for us as resident life staff or resident assistants, or for me or Wendy or somebody to respond to an individual report, if we know Sherelle sent the report in, then I can get back to Sherelle and say, hey, I wanted you to know you reported this, and these are the actions that we took to help address that. So we hope that we have a community of trust where we can trust each other to have those conversations, and that anonymous reports, if someone leaves an anonymous note on a door and says, please stop doing this, I don't respond to it because I don't know who wrote that note. And an anonymous tip could be not a true tip. It could be somebody just trying to get back at somebody else or something. So generally, the expectations we have that as a community, we're going to work together to figure things out. We're adults, we're all in education. We're all trying to make the best of our lives here. And so the best thing we can do is work together if there's a problem that somebody needs to resolve with somebody else. So hopefully that helps with the questions. I think that's the last of mine. So, and was I supposed to move the slide?
I should have done it for you.
Oh, I did that already. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. And there we go. Okay.
Thank you.
You're up. Yep.
All right. So we just had a bunch of miscellaneous questions at the end, so I just thought we'd throw them all together. So the first, we had 3 or 4 questions on storage, about laundry rooms. Can we store furniture, other items, gardening supplies, and camping items in the laundry rooms? And the answer is no. According to policy, the only thing that can be stored in cedar laundry rooms are bikes, and in cottonwood and spruce, nothing at all. The reason for this is safety. We have too many residents to allow to store items in the laundry rooms. It would just get to be too much. It's also fire safety. We need to be able to have that space available for fire equipment to get in and for us to be able to get out if there's anybody that's in there, right? So the next questions was about storing items underneath the stairwells. The question talked about, nobody's walking under the stairwells. Why can't we do it? Same thing, fire. It's a fire code. We can't have things underneath the stairwell for fire safety. Cottonwood and spruce are going to have storage cages available this fall. They are, I can remember, they're like this big by this big. They're not huge, but they would be worthwhile for anybody who wants to tuck extra things away in a storage area. We are still working on rates for those, how much those will be. And just so everybody is aware, there's not enough for everybody. So it will be on a first come, first served basis for those. And they may not be on your floor. It may be a little bit farther away for you. But if you are one of those that applies and gets a storage cage, you would be able to get one. It may not be exactly where you want. Somebody asked about window washing in these new buildings. I don't know how many of you live here and have looked out those windows, but they are covered with dirt from the construction site next door. We have window washing scheduled for the end of July, early August. We're hoping that with most of the summer construction season through and them being out of the ground by July, that it will be a good time to wash those and be able to keep them clean for a decent amount of time. So we're going to start washing the windows on a 6-month rotation. So it'll be in the fall and in the spring that we'll be doing that. Someone asked about a bike wash, and I looked into that, and unfortunately we don't have the drainage system necessary. If you're washing a bike, it has to go into a sanitary sewer drain and not just regular like landscaping or a stormwater drain. So right at this point, we don't have a location here at Sunnyside that we can provide to wash bikes. Somebody asked about a gym. Well, that sounds so awesome. We do not have a gym planned for phase 2 of Sunnyside Apartments. So the Campus Life Center will, yeah, we have high fitness every Thursday night. Yep. So somebody else asked about basketballs. I thought this was an awesome question. We have basketball courts, but no basketballs. So our awesome Resident Life team is going to look into how we can have basketballs available to check out to use whenever you would like to. And then Valerie talked about reporting suspicious activity. So I believe we've answered all of the questions that came in. Are there, if we want to open it up for 5 minutes for questions? Yes, sure. No, we haven't talked about it. No, but I can address that. We are having heating issues in 796 right now. A few weeks ago, there was a valve that was opened in the central plant out on the other side of the building that controls all of our heating and air conditioning, and it let air into the lines. And so we are having a hard time getting all the air out of the lines. And it seems to be certain places in the buildings, random places that we're having issues. I assume your apartment's one of them. Are you in 798? You're over here too.
We have changed that I own my neighbors here, I get the same time, but I don't get the same service.
Yeah.
And the parking by the meetings at home, during the, what's holiday days, they are sick, and then it's getting warmer, the AC is not working, and that's not related, something acceptable, so, you need to tell us something about it. Are you going to stay this way, are you going to fix it soon?
So I would,
I read several things, now it's organic months. We are still not getting the service. And I'm here on for this reason, and this is a big problem for us.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a service for same price.
I completely understand your frustration. We're getting frustrated as well. And we don't live in the apartment, so I can understand yours is heightened from what we're feeling. But can we talk afterwards? Because I would love to hear what's happening in your apartments and what you're hearing from your neighbors. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you bringing that up.
I heard this apartment for sublease, but in the west or east village is available for the sublease within somewhere 90 members. So is there any reason why we set aside?
So we do not allow any subleasing in family housing, so there is no subleasing in East or West Village either. We,
Yeah, previous experience of it is available in East or West village.
well, if you know something I don't know, Valerie.
We now allow in costs and we have one semester somewhere. Policy is not different for students.
I will say it's different for Spruce because our housing software does not support subleasing. So Spruce you cannot sublease in Spruce.
Yeah, I heard from my friend.
Okay, for now.
Not from, I think she asked to go. And she bought.
Did you get single practice?
Yeah, I think we were.
Yeah, single practice is cannot, but the only parts are on the smaller.
Thank you, Valerie. Any other questions?
Regarding storage, out there, a lot. The orders of most people who have access to the pages, have an additional key. Or.
I believe they,
And they store things outside of the page, but I've seen those rooms that.
Yeah.
Pages fall on the roof. A
yeah,
lot more.
right now the plan is just in the cages. And I believe they have card access. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I believe the storage rooms have card access. So you'd be given card access in, no?
I've only seen, because when I check every like storage, I run into some of the cages and it's only keys.
That's all keys. Okay, well, I'm wrong on that too. One key for both. Okay. Thank you. Thank you all for coming tonight. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to come and spend it with us. We're grateful that you are here and you're residents and you want to live here. And please, anytime you feel like you have questions or concerns, reach out and we will do our best to help relieve those concerns. So thank you.